Rick Wiggin, and I was a class of 1970 at Denison. I got involved in the expedition after the failure of the first expedition. I happened to be reading about it. Well, I've always had a sort of secret desire to climb an unclimbed mountain, and so I said, if they're going back, I'll go with them. We had a couple of businessmen. John Ferracci and I were both actively pursuing professional careers. JP and Rich Soper were in law school. Fritz was a student.
Bill Dennis, who was one of the faculty members, has been a lifelong friend of mine.
And I was particularly fascinated by Espen, who had just come off of a year in the Norwegian Merchant Marine. And I never really had an opportunity to talk to him about what that was all about. But I was just fascinated by the whole idea of it. That here we are, sort of all coming together for this kind of an expedition. And we all came from such varied backgrounds and varied experiences. Mount Denison sits at the head of the Alaska Peninsula. But Mount Denison is only 7,606 feet. It's relatively small. It sweeps up from the shore of the Alaska Peninsula. There's a little bay in there opposite Kodiak Island called Hallow Bay, which gets the runoff water from Hallow Glacier. Hallow Glacier runs up the slope pretty much up to the summit of Mount Denison and to a range of other mountains in the vicinity of Mount Denison as well. There's about 5 miles of coastal swamp and coastal moraine. A moraine is the tailings of the glacier. It's the gravel and the dirt and the crud and all the stuff that's been swept down the mountain in the glacier. It often, in this case it did, consist as much of anything as, they're good mounds there and good hills, but they're as much ice in the interior as they are dirt. And so they get swept down, the ice calves off the glacier and sits there on the land there, covered with this gravel and the dirt, so it looks for all the world like a hill, but it's all icy underneath.
Cowboy coffee. How'd you sleep last night?
Terribly. I couldn't fall asleep for a few hours.
Seriously?
Yeah, but once I finally fell asleep, I was good.
I was totally out of it.
Yeah, I read for like an hour maybe. And then again, I have no idea what time it was because the sun doesn't set ever.
This is day 2. Can you believe the weather? It's about 8:30 in the morning, and we can actually see shadows. It's a great morning. They'll bring out the bugs, but we'll take the good with the bad. Our goal today is to obtain one of those snow slopes and climb to the top of the ridge up there. It's pretty ambitious. It's a lot of elevation gain. And before we hit that snow, we've got this gravel bar, which is good for fast movement, but then after that we have a bunch of green space on the map, could translate into willow bushes that we'll have to find our way through.
Bush went up the stream a little bit further, and then we just kind of realized we needed to like cut hard right into the woods, and we did. And that's where we first saw our first and only bears of the whole trip. We were walking along, and we looked over on the bush line, and here's several bears just kind of traversing along. And I mean, huge bears, but it was interesting because they were so uninterested in us, or if they were interested in us, they were obviously walking the opposite direction, so they didn't want anything to do with us, which was great.
About 2,500 feet so far today, and we're on the ridge that separates the valley that we came in from Hollow Bay, which is behind me. Right over here is the Hollow Glacier, and over here is Mount Stellar, which hopefully we'll make a first ascent on later on, but still have a long way to go today. I have to traverse this snowfield for a couple more miles, and probably another 1,000 feet in front of us at least. And we're all carrying out 75-pound packs, so it makes it interesting. But this weather is amazing, so pretty good.
See some of these little flowers up here?
Later in the day, we broke into the snowfields, and it was really getting hot. I mean, my watch told me it was 90 degrees. I'm not sure if it was that warm, but it was probably in the high 80s, if not low 90s. So we called it a day, you know, only about halfway to our objective for that same day. And we found a great little grassy knoll and just pitched our tents and just got sunburned on the grassy knoll. It was awesome.
So here we are on our grassy knoll, midway to where to the bowl for Mount Denison, where we plan on setting our base camp. We actually had a good day of hiking, made a lot of progress, but unfortunately the weather is so nice that it's melting the snow. And when we were going through the snow, the person leading would come up to about knee length, and that just gets extremely tiring, and people were starting to slip. And so we decided to call it a day, and hopefully tomorrow when we wake up, there'll be a nice layer of ice over the top of the snow that'll allow us just to fly right across it.
Couldn't be happier. That's where I want to be. Sunshine. Not enough food though.
So now what we're wondering about is where we'll pitch our tents, because there's no even snow platform around here. We brought a shovel, we'll have to dig, but that's not the best of cases. What we're contemplating doing is sleeping out right here on our mats on this grassy knoll in the open.